Welcome to Cinema Bites. Your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The film begins with Superman lying on the icy ground in the villages of Antarctica, dying slowly, blood pouring heavily from his nose, barely able to breathe after a big battle. Suddenly, a snowstorm heads his way quickly. It's Krypto, his beautiful and loyal dog, who came looking for him. Krypto jumps on him happily, but Superman can't move and, with great difficulty, tells his faithful friend to take him home. Here we see that Superman's suit is back with the classic red trunks, and Krypto does as Superman asked. The ground of the house opens up, revealing the grandeur of his Fortress of Solitude, with its distinctive icy castle and the famous S symbol on the door. Superman's robots rush to help him, but Superman thanks them, and the robots reply that they have no consciousness and are only designed to serve, so his thanks mean nothing to them. To reassure him, the robots show him a message from his real parents in a recording, telling him that they sent him from Krypton to Earth to save him, that they love him more than the sky and Earth, and have placed all their hopes in him. But the recording is suddenly cut off, and only half the message arrived safely. The other half was lost or destroyed on the way to Earth. The robots say Superman has 14 broken bones and also has problems with his kidneys, liver, and bladder. They say he needs to be exposed to a large amount of sunlight to fully recover, so they put him under the sun to heal quickly. Back at the Fortress of Solitude, Superman tells his robots he wants to go back to fighting, but the robots warn him that he's only 85% recovered. Superman ignores the warnings and decides to return to battle. Meanwhile, we see Luthor, who is also Angela's boss, giving orders to his team to eliminate Superman by any means possible. Then, Baravia's hammer appears, hitting Superman with a very powerful blow, leaving him lying on the ground unable to move, as if he knows Superman's every move. At this critical moment, a civilian named Malik, who once offered Superman food, approaches to help him up. But Lex Luthor quickly identifies the civilian, and Angela tracks Superman's trail to the Fortress of Solitude and barely manages to see him before he disappears. Luthor is also watching him from his office via cameras he installed. Baravia's hammer sentences Superman, telling him this will be his last battle. At the same time, we discover that Baravia's hammer has reached Luthor Court buildings and is revealed to be a powerful robot named Ultraman, who was disguised as Baravia's hammer to deceive people. After that, we see Clark Kent heading to work, receiving a call from his parents who greet him lovingly, saying they wanted to congratulate him, that they think of him often, and asking him not to forget them. But Clark quickly says goodbye and continues his day. Here, Lois appears, teasing Clark in her usual way. Meanwhile, the news reports that the president of Baravia, Basil, publicly states that there is no connection between his country and the person known as Baravia's hammer. Clark says he's had the opportunity to interview Superman several times. At the same time, the news shows how public opinion of Superman has turned negative since Lex Luthor began gathering several elite representatives to present what he describes as the greatest force on the planet, Ultraman, along with a group of raptors, powerful creatures designed to eliminate any threat from space. Luthor tries to convince businessmen and important figures to invest in those with superpowers, saying Superman poses a potential threat. But the representatives say Superman prevented a war and is very popular among the people. Luthor insists Superman is a danger and must be stopped, but admits he has no solid evidence to prove he's a real threat, so the representatives refuse to take any drastic action. On the other hand, Lois and Clark decide to go out together since they haven't gone out in 3 months. They talk about what happened with Baravia's hammer, and Superman says he wants Lois to do the interview, and she agrees. And Lois asks him about the recent criticism directed at him. In the end, the news reports that there are no casualties, but after this heroic act, no one applauds. The news reports that Superman actually also took a risk, and according to what they say, the message his parents sent was analyzed by 28 of the most famous linguists in the world, who confirmed its translation. In it, his parents say they love him more than the sky and the earth and reveal to him that their beloved home will remain forever. But they emphasize that hope lies in Superman. After reviewing his file, the universe concluded that Earth is the best place for him, but its inhabitants are simple, foolish, and weak-minded. Therefore, as the last son of Krypton, he must eliminate anyone who cannot serve him, and his genes and legacy are in his hands, and he must honor them by ruling mercilessly. In light of this revelation, Luthor appears before the people and announces that Superman is subjecting humanity to a path so that his people can take over the Earth and that he will never allow it. As a result, Superman walks the streets very sad. People insult and blame him, In the end, Superman escapes into an alley. Here, Green Lantern comes to confront him, convinced after hearing his parents' message that Superman is a danger. But Superman assures him that he never heard the full message, as the second half was destroyed en route. At that moment, Mr. Traffic intervenes and explains that the forensic department would not have confirmed the authenticity of the message. In light of this, Superman decides to return immediately to his Fortress of Solitude, convinced that this is the place where they might have gotten the original recording. Meanwhile, representatives from different countries are gathered in an urgent summit to discuss whether Superman is a threat to the planet or not. In the end, the president of Baravia appears and announces that Superman invaded Harjamber just to subjugate his people and make them slaves, and also says that the women of Baravia are more beautiful, and that's why Superman wants to add them to his private harem. After the conversation, the president goes to his office and walks through a secret passage that leads him to Luthor. As soon as they meet, the president appears very happy and convinced that they managed to get Superman out of the game because of the supposedly forged message that Luthor made. But Luthor explains to him that the message is real, and explains that destroying Superman was very easy because of his parents. When Superman arrives at his fortress and finds it completely destroyed, he meets one of his robots named Four, who confesses that he did everything he could to protect him, but could not accomplish his mission. He immediately collapses in Superman's arms, leaving him deeply affected. After a while, Superman notices that Krypto has disappeared and decides to go to Luthor Corp to pressure Luthor to reveal Krypto's whereabouts. But Luthor insists he has no idea what he's talking about. While the two are arguing, a reporter named Rat Luthor secretly films them and broadcasts the conversation live. During the broadcast, we see Superman angry and yelling at Luthor, causing a huge media stir. At the same time, news channels broadcast images of Peacemaker, who takes advantage of the situation to speak harshly about Superman. After this episode, Superman, who was very depressed, goes to Lois's apartment. She is surprised and tells him she just found out he has a dog, and compassionately offers him a cup of hot chocolate. Superman then reveals to her that the ship he came in was damaged on the way, and that he was only able to hear the first half of his parents' recording. Lois, very understanding, tells him she believes him, although she says that one of his biggest flaws is that he blindly trusts everyone and assumes all people are good, which is far from the truth. Clark, who is a bit nervous, asks her what she meant about their relationship not working, and tells her he is thinking of surrendering himself, so that maybe that way they can find where his beloved Krypto is. Lois, who is surprised, asks him why he cares so much about a simple dog. Superman replies that he took responsibility for him and is determined to fulfill his duty. Lois, unable to stop herself, hugs him, and Superman tells her he loves her. The two say goodbye to each other. The next day, Superman voluntarily surrenders to Luthor's soldiers, and Luthor has access to the prison through many gates spread across the planet. In the end, they reach a hidden prison where Luthor is holding many people whom Baravia ordered to be imprisoned. Superman is placed in a cell next to Rex, a shapeshifter who can change his body as he wishes. Luthor orders Rex to turn one of his hands into kryptonite. Rex, who has no other choice, agrees because Luthor is holding his son in a cell inside the same prison. Meanwhile, Lois is at the newspaper headquarters investigating why Luthor Corp is interfering in Baravia's affairs. During her research, she discovers worrying information. Luthor Corp sold weapons to Baravia at very low prices. At that moment, James comes to her and reveals that, thanks to a contact, he knows that Superman is imprisoned in a pocket universe. Inside this pocket universe, Luthor appears to Superman and reveals to him that he has Krypto and assures him that the dog will remain imprisoned and will be studied in detail. Additionally, Luthor tells Superman that he will never get out of this place either, as this is his special reformation center. Luthor also admits that, if it were up to him, he would have ended his life, but the governments insist on interrogating him before making any decision. Meanwhile, Jimmy meets Eve, Luthor's ex-girlfriend and Jimmy's secret informant, and interrogates her about Luthor's real plans. But Eve assures him she doesn't know those plans for sure. Nevertheless, she promises to find out more details on the condition that Jimmy agrees to go out with her on a date alone. Before she leaves, Eve admits, nervously, that Luthor tortured a dog yesterday and didn't get rid of it because he likes to have all his ex-girlfriends imprisoned in his special reformation center. At the same time, the weakened Superman suggests to Rex that if he removes the kryptonite, he can help him save his young shape-shifting son. But Rex gets angry and instead of helping him, brings the kryptonite closer to Superman, causing him unbearable pain. Meanwhile, Lois meets with the Justice Gang team, determined to find Superman, and Mr. Traffic manages to track Superman's location because he had previously implanted nano-trackers in his blood. He tells the team that Superman is in an abandoned military base and that the signal disappears at that point, but they confirm that there is a jeep there. However, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl show reluctance to participate in the rescue, saying they don't want to fight just to save Superman, while Lois sarcastically bids them farewell and tells Green Lantern that the hair dye doesn't suit him. As she leaves, Mr. Traffic follows her and assures her that he'll accompany her on her mission. At the same time, Mr. Traffic and Lois finally reach the secret base where Superman is held and are determined to start his rescue. Mr. Traffic notices signs of Superman's presence and, without hesitation, confronts everyone in their way, carrying Lois via a force field. Once he defeats their opponents, they continue and reach the tent with the entrance to the Pocket Universe. There, Mr. Traffic explains to Lois how dangerous it is to create a pocket universe, as it could cause the formation of a black hole and break space every time someone enters or exits. Then Mr. Traffic admits he's helping her because it will annoy Green Lantern, and without wasting time, he starts decoding the necessary code to open the portal to that universe. Meanwhile, Rex is very sad that he couldn't save the civilian who died in front of him. He gathers his courage and asks Superman if he can get to where his son is, and Superman agrees with determination. Rex decides to analyze the kryptonite he was holding to stop it from hurting and weakening him. When Superman partially recovers, Rex asks why he still looks weak. Superman explains that his bad condition is due to lack of sunlight. He just needs to absorb radiation from the yellow sun to regain his strength, as that's his power source. Meanwhile, Mr. Traffic and Lois finally decode the codes that allow entry to the Pocket Universe and pass through the portal. As soon as they enter, they find a river of anti-protons blocking their way, and if they dare to cross, they'll be vaporized in seconds and won't reach Superman alive. At that moment, in the cell where Superman is imprisoned, Rex explains that although he can't create a real sun, he can make something similar by mixing different substances his body produces. After finishing the mixture, he creates a powerful flash, allowing Superman to gradually regain his strength. When Superman regains some of his power, he flies straight to the cell where Rex's son is, frees him, and reunites the child with his father. Rex asks Superman to take his son with him, because he can't carry him while he's changing. As they're about to escape, they're surprised and pushed toward the river of anti-protons. Krypto bravely intervenes to help. In the critical moment, Superman is about to be pulled toward the black hole and calls out to Krypto in despair. Rex also hurries to help, and Mr. Traffic offers them his vehicle so they can travel safely. Meanwhile, Ivy calls Jimmy and tells him she has all the information needed to destroy Luthor. But before she starts, she asks Jimmy to promise they'll go out together alone on Saturday. Suddenly, Luthor appears and takes Ivy. Although she manages to send the information, what gets sent are only some photos. On the other hand, Lois accompanies Superman to visit Clark's parents. Later, Jimmy calls Lois to inform her and sends her the photos, which shock everyone, as there's very important data about Luthor in the background of these selfies. At the same time, Luthor prepares to open the portal to the Pocket Universe again, even though this could cause a three-dimensional fracture. But the possibility of such a disaster doesn't worry him. He actually creates the crack, proving why a Pocket Universe should never have been created in the first place. The next day, Superman's father noticed he's changed. Superman is upset because his parents sent him to kill, but Jonathan tells him that parents don't decide what their children want to do, and their decisions and actions are what make them the men they are, and he couldn't be prouder of him. They hug, and Jonathan says, "Your decisions and actions are what make you the man you are." Elsewhere, Green Lantern is watching the news about the war in Bravia, and Superman sees it too and learns that Bravia's children are asking for his help, so he plans to go there. But Terrific informs Superman about the crack, so he must go because it could destroy the entire Earth. Then Jimmy and Lois tell Barry, the head of the communications department at the news, that Luthor is doing all this to get them to leave him half of Nuremberg, as Luthor wants to call himself king and is even conspiring with Bravia's president Basil, who created the crack to distract Superman and prevent him from intervening in the war. Mr. Traffic can't stop the crack, and the Luthor Corp team can't either because Luthor refuses to do so. So they take the vehicle from Mr. Traffic's building, which has the code to close the crack and is located at Luthor Corp. But Superman must first look for Krypto, who he let out for a walk so he wouldn't kill his parents' cows. Then Ultraman arrives and takes Superman to a football stadium, where they fight the mutant Angela. Luthor orders Angela to watch Superman, and she does so in front of Luthor's eyes. When they capture Superman, who is literally about to die, they send Basil to start the war. Luthor orders Angela to keep destroying all of them. Superman flies to the highest point, even leaving the planet, and when he can't take it anymore, he falls at maximum speed, which could kill Angela because of the impact's force. When they land, Luthor sends the Raptors to discover that Angela is still alive, though she's about to die. and Ultraman also survived. Ultraman's mask falls off, and Superman realizes they cloned him because Luthor searched the wreckage of their battles and found hair to clone him. That's what allowed him to open his Fortress of Solitude, as it had his DNA. But the clone turned out incomplete. He's dumber and easier to control, although stronger. Luthor orders Ultraman to hit him with all his strength, showing that brains trump brawn. Meanwhile, we see a child praying for Superman to arrive and save them from the war. Superman tells Luthor that no matter what he does, he won't win, and his plan in Bravia will fail because he asked his friends to send the Justice League gang, who help him stop the war, and also with the support of Rex and his young son, were sent. At the same time, Perry says they can reveal the whole truth for Jimmy, and if they know everything he did, he played a role in starting the war just to have an excuse to kill Superman. Luthor wants to kill him because, according to him, Superman is destroying all of them. Superman smiles as he overcomes and confirms that the mind prevails over strength. He calls for Krypto, and when he frees himself from his clone, he sends Krypto to get the wires, which were actually the surveillance cameras that Luthor had installed. At that moment, the Raptors arrive, and Superman gets ready to fight them. After defeating them, the clone appears again to continue attacking him, but Superman attacks him with even more strength and throws him towards the black hole. Superman announces that he is human like anyone else, that he knows how to love, that he is afraid. He continues, saying he makes a lot of mistakes because that's human nature. He expresses his hope that Luthor will understand him one day. Luthor responds by saying he doesn't care because the governments have given him permission to kill him. But Krypto intervenes and gives Luthor a strong punch. The rest of the Justice League members were watching everything and saw how they managed to close the case thanks to Mr. Traffic, who brought the code. In the news, everything about Luthor is revealed. His secret collaboration with Basil and the government of Bravia. Now the whole world knows that Luthor is a traitor. It turns out the whole world had turned against Superman. But now everyone admits they owe him an apology, because Superman will always remain the hero they always believed in. The war caused by Luthor has been prevented, and people are happy. Rex joins the Justice League after helping to stop the war. Luthor is arrested, and everyone he had detained is freed, including his old girlfriends. Lois meets with Jimmy. In the end, Lois also tells him that she loves him. Then Superman returns to his Fortress of Solitude, where the robots have repaired everything and fixed themselves. He names his robot number 4, who will now be called Gary. Then Supergirl arrives, who is actually Krypto's owner and likes to go to parties on other planets. Now Superman relaxes as he watches the message from his human parents and recalls all the memories, feeling happy. And with that, the movie ends. If you liked it, please don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel so you get all the upcoming videos.